Welcome to the Full Moon Film Buff, episode 211. We are going to discuss Monster Brawl, released in 2011. I watched this on Tubi. I had not seen this before. As always, we start with the prominent crew and cast. You can find links to a more complete credit list in the show notes. This film was directed by Jesse Thomas Cook. It was written by Jesse Thomas Cook and Jason David Brown. The effects makeup supervisor was Jeff DeRushy. Jesse Thomas Cook is known for resourceful independent horror films. He's based in Collingwood, Ontario, and co-founded Collingwood Film Company with his wife Liv Collins to create original genre cinema with local talent. He's produced around 15 features since 2008, with standout credits including directing and writing Monster Brawl, Dead Sight, Septic Man, and the award-nominated Cult Hero, and The Hyborian. This is Jason David Brown's only writing credit. More often, he also acts and helps with production design and monster creation, appearing in films like Septic Man and Antisocial. Jeff DeRushy is a talented special effects makeup artist and supervisor known for his practical creature work in horror and big-budget films. Monster Brawl was one of his early big breaks. He moved on to contributing to major film productions like Pacific Rim, The Shape of Water, and The Shadow of the Moon. He's worked on TV shows like The Strain, Star Trek Discovery and Starfleet Academy, The Boys, and The Last of Us. The cast includes Dave Foley as Buzz Chambers, Art Hindle as Sasquatch Sid Tucker, Robert Millay as Frankenstein, Jimmy Hart as himself, Herb Dean as himself, Kevin Nash as Colonel Crookshanks, Lance Hendrickson as the voice of God, Jason David Brown as Cyril Haggard, Swamp Gut, Cyclops, and the Grizzly Planet narrator, R.J. Skinner as the Mummy and, most importantly, the Werewolf, Rico Montana as Zombie Man, Holly Letkeman as Witch Bitch, Kelly Couture as Lady Vampire, Ari Millen as Dr. Igora, Jesse Thomas Cook appeared as the Drunkard, and Chris Ruddy as the Grub, billed as Christopher Rudd. Dave Foley is a renowned actor and comedian, easily best known as a founding member of the sketch comedy troupe The Kids in the Hall, and for his role as Dave Nelson on the sitcom News Radio. Another major role includes voicing Flick in A Bug's Life. Art Hindle is a veteran Canadian actor with a long career in film and television, appearing in classics like The Brood, Black Christmas, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Porky's and Porky's 2, Dallas, ENG, and Paradise Falls. Robert Millay, known as Kurgan from his time in the WWE, is a former professional wrestler standing at 7 feet tall. He spent most of his career as a heel. This carried over to an acting career where he often appeared as villains and thugs. He has appeared in films like Sherlock Holmes, Pacific Rim, and Deadpool 2. Jimmy Hart, the legendary WWE Hall of Famer known as the Mouth of the South, is an iconic pro wrestling manager famous for his megaphone antics and his work with stars like Hulk Hogan. Herb Dean is a highly respected UFC referee with decades of experience officiating major MMA bouts. He lends real combat sports credibility while he's still alive. Kevin Nash started as an athlete, playing basketball in college, the Army, and in Europe before switching to pro wrestling. He's a WWE Hall of Famer and pro wrestling legend known for his roles in the NWO and as Diesel. He got his acting start in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. Other credits include films like The Punisher, The Longest Yard, and John Wick. Lance Henriksen got early breaks in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Damien 2, The Omen, and James Cameron's Piranha 2, The Spawning, and The Terminator. He's recognized for iconic roles in The Right Stuff, Near Dark, Aliens, and Aliens 3 as the Android Bishop, and the Millennium series. He's done video games like the Mass Effect series and multiple Aliens games as well. R.J. Skinner, better known as R.J. City, is a professional wrestler, actor, comedian, and writer currently with AEW as an interviewer and host. Rico Montana is a Canadian professional wrestler. This is his only acting credit. Holly Letkeman, widely known as the wrestler Rosemary or Courtney Rush, is a Canadian pro wrestler active in TNA and Impact. I think this is her only acting credit. Kelly Couture is also a Canadian professional wrestler. This is also her only acting credit. Ari Millen is an actor recognized for roles in Orphan Black and other genre projects. Monster Brawl is an odd movie. It is a horror wrestling pay-per-view event held in a cursed Michigan graveyard. 8 classic-ish monsters are split into creature and undead divisions, with lightweight and heavyweight bouts, all fighting to the death to crown the ultimate ghoul. Think Celebrity Deathmatch meets Royal Rumble with practical monster suits. It's very light on plot, but very heavy on spectacle. Each fighter gets a short origin vignettes before their match, which are often the most entertaining parts. The fights are choreographed like wrestling with gore and monster powers. The positives? It's a pretty fun concept with committed performances, especially from the commentators who are working their asses off to sell this, and solid practical creature designs on a micro budget. However, the pacing drags between matches. Some of the fights feel repetitive, and it's much more of a novelty than it is any deep storytelling. The biggest thing I noticed is how important the roaring crowd is to an actual wrestling match. This movie felt lifeless with no live audience cheering the monsters on. This is perfect for fans who just want monsters smashing each other. Everybody else can skip it. Now, the main takeaway on the effects. For a low-budget indie, the practical makeup and suits hold up surprisingly well and deliver the goods for monster fans. Lots of practical gore, prosthetics, and creature costumes with a few minor CGI assists that aren't too distracting. The werewolf design, played by R.J. Skinner, is a full-on hairy beast suit with a snarling snout. Very classic, universally inspired, but with a modern wrestling swagger. There is no major on-screen transformation sequence in the main action. The origin story does give a quick bite backstory, but the look works great. It's not perfect because it has to hold up while Skinner is performing actual wrestling moves. The attack scenes are wrestling-style brawls with claws, bites, and dismemberment. Practical effects shine in the gore. There's rips and tears, etc. And lycanthropy fans will appreciate the full moon advantage and feral energy, even if it is much more of a wrestler in a wolf suit than anguished Lon Chaney Jr. internal struggle. Other monsters like Swamp Gut and Frankenstein get fun, bulky suits too. It's not Oscar level. Don't expect that. But it's charmingly effective and way, way, way better than I expected for this budget. Now, the film uses traditional lore with a fun, condensed spin for the tournament format. The werewolf's backstory. A man loses his wife and unborn child to the werewolf. He seeks revenge, kills the beast, but gets bitten and cursed. Classic bite origin, full moon empowerment, and a vengeful monster-hating twist. It keeps the silver bullet vulnerability implied in the monster world, but doesn't dwell on wolfsbane or Pax. Instead of deep internal struggle, we get a smarmy, sarcastic, overconfident wrestler persona. He struts, trash talks, and dominates with full moon confidence. He relies on speed and agility to offset the other monster's brute strength. Now, director-producer Jesse Thomas Cook poured his passion into this as a wrestling monster homage. The team clearly had a lot of fun creating this pay-per-view parody. Connections to other werewolf films, there are echoes here of Frankenstein meets the Wolfman or House of the Wolfman in the final vibes with practical suits recalling those older Universal eras and the big monster clashes. The wrestling connects this film to the work of El Santo. So let's talk about wrestling and how these two topics relate. Professional wrestling isn't just a sport. It's theater, athleticism, soap opera, and spectacle all rolled up into one. From traveling carnivals to global pay-per-view empires, it has captivated audiences for over a century now. But what happens when the monsters we fear in the shadows step into the ring under the bright lights? Today, we're diving into the history of pro wrestling, its evolution into sports entertainment, and its wild intersection of werewolves and horror icons. At the heart of it all, the 2011 cult film Monster Brawl is a loving satire that turns classic monsters into wrestling stars in this graveyard deathmatch PPV. First, yes, professional wrestling is worked. That means it has predetermined outcomes with choreographed action designed for maximum entertainment. But it's not fake. It's scripted storytelling through physical performance, and those physical performances are real. Kayfabe, the illusion that everything is real, keeps the magic alive. At its core, it is an athletic exhibition blended with characters, promotions, and rivalries. Matches feature slams, suplexes, high-flying dives, and submissions. But the real draw is the larger-than-life personas, heroes, called faces, and villains, called heels, and the roaring crowds who cheer or boo along. Pro wrestling's roots trace back to the late 19th century, evolving from catch-as-catch-can wrestling and carnival sideshows in the post-Civil War United States and over in Europe. Traveling carnivals that featured strongmen and wrestlers would challenge locals for bets. These evolved to often have fixed outcomes, ensuring exciting shows, you didn't want a bad show, and repeat business. Legends like Martin Farmer Burns and Frank Gotch dominated the early 1900s as competitive stars. But by the 1920s, the Goldust Trio, Ed Lewis, Billy Sandow, and Toots Mondit, innovated with time limit matches, tag teams, and flashier holds to boost the entertainment value. The National Wrestling Alliance, NWA, formed in 1948, unifying territories. In Mexico, lucha libre exploded with masked warriors like El Santo, aka Rodolfo Guzman Huerta, a silver-masked icon who became a folk hero. Santos starred in over 50 films battling real threats and supernatural monsters, blending wrestling with horror in a uniquely Mexican way. Check out some of my videos. Post-WW2 brought the first golden age with TV stars like Gorgeous George. The 1980s boom under Vince McMahon's WWF, now the WWE, went national with Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, and the rock and wrestling era, turning it into mainstream pop culture. Cable TV amplified storylines, larger-than-life characters, and spectacle. Today, it is a global industry. WWE's entertainment machine, high-flying lucha, hard-hitting Japanese puroresu, and independence. Entrances are rock concerts. Promos drive feuds, and PPVs deliver payoff. It's escapism, good versus evil, triumph over long odds, mirroring society's broader myths. But wrestling has always loved monsters, none more so than the werewolf, the ultimate symbol of primal rage, the beast within, transformation under the full moon. This isn't new. Mexican cinema fused lucha libre with horror very early on. El Santo and Blue Demon battled Dracula, Wolfman, and hordes of monsters in films like Santo and Blue Demon versus the Monsters in 1970, and Santo and Blue Demon versus Dracula and the Wolfman in 1973. These were action-packed romps with wrestling in the ring and against supernatural foes. Werewolves ripped through families, vampire wrestlers, and more. The Panther Women, luchadoras, with panther themes, added feline ferocity echoing beastly transformation. Even in North American TV, Big Wolf on Campus featured teen werewolf Tommy Dawkins teaming up in a pro wrestling style match against a demonic wrestler. These stories tap into wrestling's spectacle. Monsters as larger-than-life performers, crowds or audiences cheering on the chaos. Enter Monster Brawl, directed by Jesse Thomas Cook. 8 classic horror icons. Kinda. We've got the werewolf, the mummy, the vampire, Frankenstein's monster, the swamp creature, a witch, a zombie, and a cyclops, competing in a pay-per-view style deathmatch tournament inside of a cursed graveyard. Only one survivor, and pure carnage. It's a loving satire of how we consume monsters as entertainment. They're not scary here, they're fun. The film pokes fun at the spectacle while celebrating it. Over-the-top ring entrances with pyrotechnics and dramatic lighting in the middle of nowhere. Scantily clad ring girls walking around with numbers. Legendary wrestling announcer Jimmy Hart hyping up the competitors, and commentators like Dave Foley's Buzz Chambers calling the action with a drunken enthusiasm alongside a very straight man. The crowd is missing, highlighting the absurdity of staging a massive show in an abandoned graveyard. Managers interfere, monsters use signature moves, they've got their claws, bites, and supernatural powers, and the blend of horror practical effects with wrestling tropes creates hilarious, affectionate commentary on both genres. Monster Brawl reminds us we love monsters because they embody the same drama we crave in wrestling, that transformation power and the story of good versus evil, or I guess in this case, evil versus evil. It turns fear into fun, the beast into a babyface or a heel. From carnival strongmen to silver-masked saints fighting wolfmen, pro wrestling has always been about the spectacle, turning human and inhuman potential into shared entertainment. Monster Brawl attempts to capture that intersection, a graveyard brawl where the line between horror icon and wrestling star completely disappears. Next time you watch a match or a monster movie, remember, we're all just cheering on the show. This is worth a watch for die-hard lycanthrope fans who love practical monster effects, wrestling absurdity, and light-hearted monster battles. The werewolf gets solid screen time and a fun personality. It's not a deep horror drama, but it's a blast for what it is, a goofy, gory tribute. Skip this if you need any kind of plot or scares. Rent it if you want to see the novelty and the effects. It is solid B-movie fun. So if you like lycanthropes, like, share, and subscribe. Contribute your thoughts and additional observations in the comments below. Let me know what I missed or what you noticed. I found a previously unknown film, so next I plan to discuss Liebe Hunt from 1968. Keep your eye on the moon, a silver bullet in the chamber, and we'll see you back here next episode.